My favorite part about training clients is not the physical changes they see. It's not the pounds lost or gained. It's not the muscle definition or the PRs hit. It is the confidence they get from taking care of themselves. It's the I can do anything I set my mind to because I just push my body to do what I never thought possible. The way they start to live their lives without limitations because they have the power to do anything they set their mind to. It's the way they look at themselves in the mirror. It's the way they show up differently in conversations. Their head held high, voicing their opinions because they believe in themselves. Getting my clients fit, strong, and sexy does way more for them than they even realize. And that is why I love what I do. And with that being read, I want to welcome you back to the 127 Fit podcast. Today's guest is a personal trainer, coach, podcaster, self-love enthusiast, and business owner. Today's guest is Emily Troxler. Emily, I want to welcome you to the 127 Fit podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely. So Emily, we're going to just start things off with a little bit of a warm-up. And the first question that I have for you is in regards to your morning routine. Kind of how do you start your day? What does your morning routine look like? And if you just kind of want to break that down a little bit for myself and the listeners, that would be awesome.
Yeah, morning routines are huge for me, and especially huge for my clients. How I start my morning is I wake up to my alarm and maybe hit snooze a few times. I wish that I wouldn't, but I still do. And then I feed my dog Kai, make my coffee, and then take my journal to the couch. Usually light some Palo Santo, and then write affirmations and gratitude list. So I write at least 5 of each. If not more. Usually it's a lot more because I like to express as much gratitude or as much affirmations about myself as possible. And then I usually, if I have extra time, I'll do about a 5-minute meditation and then get dressed, get ready, have breakfast. If I know I'm going to be out of the house for a long time, I'll get my lunch ready, but that's about it.
Cool. So if you don't mind me asking, what does breakfast kind of look like for you then in the morning?
It's one of 2 things. It's either oatmeal with raspberries and peanut butter and little dates, or avocado toast.
Yummy. That oatmeal sounds amazing.
It's
Anything
really
with peanut,
good.
I'm a peanut butter junkie, which I can't really eat it because of different gut health issues or whatever, but back in the day, like when I was in high school trying to gain weight, it's like just jars of peanut butter. It's so good. It's so good. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So the second question that I have for you within the warm-up is a favorite quote or mantra that you have.
So mantras to me are a lot like affirmations, and that's the things that I write down every single morning. And so some of my favorite ones that I feel that really impact my day is everything is always working out for me. I really believe in the law of attraction. Whatever you say comes back to you, just kind of like karma, but in a really deeper level. And so starting my day with things like that, everything is always working out for me, and then seeing the evidence of that all day long is huge for me. Absolutely. And
Cool. That's something I know for me personally. Part of my morning routine is some different things, and that I've been doing it for almost a year. At the end of this month, where it's like kind of when I knew I wanted to start a podcast and kind of figure out kind of the vision of all that. Like I just wrote down like 127 Fit, Fitness Thoughts Life, and a few other things, kind of like what I wanted the podcast to look like, what I wanted to be about and mean and all that. And there's some other things like personal things that I would like to have happen in my life or come to fruition in my life. Every morning I'll write those things out. I've got like 3 different sections, and I'll write those words or phrases, however you want to say that, 5 times. And I've been doing that for almost a year. Because I and some of the stuff, like the whole podcast thing, it's come to fruition.
Yes.
I really believe in the power of not only speaking words, but also writing words.
And believing them.
Absolutely,
like you have to believe them. You can't just be like, oh yeah, like I'm going to write this down, but then doubt yourself when you write it down.
Good point.
You really have to believe it.
Absolutely.
And then the quicker it manifests.
Absolutely. Yep. Cool. That's sweet that we kind of have that in common there in the morning routine. All right, so the final question, Emily, is favorite or most listened to podcast, and if there's more than one, go ahead and share however many you enjoy.
I really love The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
Yep.
Just because, I mean, I don't even have to say why. Just go listen to it. And then for more like fun, lighthearted stuff, that's when I don't want to feel like I'm trying to work on myself. I like Between the Reps by Brooke Entz.
Okay, yep.
It's just funny. They talk about random things. And sometimes it's, educational, and sometimes it's just them just talking.
Right, yeah. Brooke is, I mean, I follow her on YouTube and stuff. She's awesome. She's just one of those females that is just very powerful and has an amazing spirit about her, an amazing just way of looking at life. Like she's all in.
Yeah.
She's doing all kinds of different things. Entrepreneur, the CrossFit Games, athlete. She's been on the big screen acting, so she's getting after it. She's super cool.
She's definitely an inspiration of mine.
Cool, awesome. And so for any of you listeners out there that don't know who Brooke Entz is, I would follow her on Instagram. She's got a really awesome YouTube channel. It's got some crazy stuff on there. So check her out, guys, girls. Like I subscribe to her YouTube channel. I follow her on Instagram. She's very inspirational and a very bold and strong female presence in our culture and just doing some really amazing things. So sweet. So Emily, I want to kind of just take a dive now into your background, your backstory. So let's just kind of talk about, if you don't mind it, about kind of where you grew up, kind of like what your family life was, just kind of maybe some experiences that you had in school in regards to extracurricular activities, sports. Let's just kind of find out a little bit more about Emily as a young girl.
A youngin'?
Yep, a youngin'.
Well, I grew up in California, in Southern California, in a town called Tustin, close to Santa Ana and Disneyland.
Sweet.
I did grow up going to Disneyland, fortunately.
Fun stuff.
We actually had passes growing up, and it was, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but now they do not limit the amount of people that go into Disneyland. So it's a freaking madhouse. When you go in there, it's insane. And so the lines are like an hour, 2 hours long. But when I was growing up, I'm really not that old. Right? They limited the amount of people that could go, so you always had to go early if you wanted to go to Disneyland. And so that way the lines weren't long, and you had a good time, and you were able to do a lot of things more than just go on 2 rides. So that's I spent a lot of my childhood was spent at Disneyland.
There you go. That's awesome.
I had a wonderful childhood. My mom, I have a half sister and a half brother.
Okay, so do I.
Yeah. And then a younger sister.
Okay.
So I'm kind of in the middle. I was a baby for 10 years. I'm 10 years older than my younger sister. And my mom was married prior with my half sister, half brother.
Same here. Yep.
And then when they were about 2 and 3, I think, she married my dad.
Okay.
And then I was my parents first. And
Me too. That's crazy.
We're the same person.
Except for I have a younger brother, not a younger sister.
Okay.
But everything else is the exact same, which is that's kind of weird.
That's cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, great relationship with my siblings. Wonderful relationship with my parents. I felt very supported always. My family's really competitive, and so I definitely get that from them. Sometimes, even now to this day, we'll play like board games, and sometimes it'll end badly. We're that competitive. But yeah, I grew up in sunny California. Really enjoyed being outside all the time, swimming, biking, taking my dogs out. Grew up playing. I dabbled in soccer when I was elementary school. Dabbled in a bunch of other things, and then found lacrosse when I was in middle school, and then ended up playing lacrosse from middle school all the way to high school, and then my freshman year I also did cross country and did that all throughout high school.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So lacrosse and cross country then were kind of the 2 sports once you got into high school.
Yeah.
So then post high school, what did that kind of look like going off to school? Did you continue to play any sports or not? What was kind of the post high school picture there.
So kind of, I skipped a huge, monumental, important fact in my childhood. When I was 16, we moved from California to Conifer, Colorado.
Okay.
So I went from a high school of, probably 4,000 kids, 1,000 in each grade, to a high school of 800. Very small town. Right. 2 grocery stores, 3 restaurants, like so different from Southern California.
Right.
And so, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, you probably already know this, but started smoking weed when I moved to Conifer. It was a very weed-centered town, and was still active, playing sports and stuff. And then when I went to college, still smoked a bunch of weed, but didn't play sports. And then gained the freshman 15 and was so uncomfortable with myself and my body and just bored. Like I knew that there was more and that I was meant to do more. And then I started kind of working out on my own. The Tone It Up girls, I don't know if you've heard of them or
no, I haven't.
They had their own Bravo show when I was, I think, a sophomore in college, and then I ended up following them from that, and they have this, you should look them up. They have huge online
what's
following. Tone It Up.
They
sell stuff at Target now. They're really big.
Okay, cool.
So I started working out because of them, and then the Kayla It Signs guides. I was just trying to find something, and then started kind of strength training in that way. I'd never done it before because in lacrosse and cross country, especially female sports, you're not really in the weight room.
Right.
And fell in love with it that way, and then realized that this was something that I really enjoyed.
Okay, so I wanna go back to the weed thing because I mean, for me in high school, I never smoked weed, but I started drinking my senior year in high school, and then that snowballed into my freshman, sophomore year in college. I almost got kicked out of my second college because of drinking and partying and all that. And to be quite frank, probably a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast, have drank, they've smoked weed, they are drinking, they are smoking weed, or they've struggled with other drugs, however you want to word it. We're in Colorado, so it's kind of a little bit different, but not every state has, legalized marijuana and things of that nature. So, for you, Emily, was the smoking weed, was that kind of like a checkout mechanism for you? Was it just more of kind of like a comfort thing? Was it to kind of just be cool? If you don't mind breaking that down a little bit, just so maybe some of the listeners can maybe relate a little bit more to kind of maybe some of those struggles or what that whole thing was about for you at that stage of your life.
Yeah, I think in high school for me, so when I moved to Conifer, I was a junior. Okay. And prior to that, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke. I was super involved in a youth group at my church in California, and then I didn't have anything like that in Colorado and in Conifer, that very, very small town.
Right.
And I found good friends, but my friend, everyone there just kind of smoked weed. It was something that they did.
Right.
And drank and went to parties, and I'd never experienced anything like that. And so it was more, I don't think I smoked probably until I was there for probably about 8 months because I was nervous to do it. And then one of my friends was really into it, and I tried it. And I was like, this is, I like laughing. This is funny, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure. I think it was really just about kind of trying to discover who I was. I felt like who I was and my friends and where I came from was just really uprooted. And I was trying to find who Emily was by experimenting with outside things.
Right.
And, yeah.
So do you think that you growing up in kind of, so if you don't mind me asking, you mentioned the youth group thing, and I grew up in a very conservative home, very conservative community in Iowa, and things of that nature. My dad's a PK. His dad was a pastor, and that kind of runs in our family or whatever. So I understand kind of growing up in that very conservative, somewhat maybe restrictive kind of environment. So I want to touch on that a little bit because did you growing up in that type of kind of more conservative, religious church kind of environment, do you think maybe drove you a little bit into kind of testing out the weed and then being like, hey, you know what, this is kind of the route that I'm going to go, kind of screw the church thing and all that, or not necessarily?
Probably. When I first moved, I was really upset, and I was really upset with my parents because I didn't know anyone. For the first few months, it was during summer, I just sat at home. And my parents are both sober. They've been sober for probably over 30 years now. They met at an AA meeting. So I think that's also where it comes to play. I always knew that, like, and they always warned me, like, addictive runs in your genes. And so I always knew, like, how it would feel to be out of control. I never felt out of control, and I could say no, and I did it mainly to relax and to socialize with the people that I was hanging out with, because that's what my friends were doing. But yeah, I think it maybe also could have been a lash out. Now that I look back at it, I was upset with my parents. I didn't like where I was. I was trying to make it more fun for me, and at that moment, that's what that felt like.
Did the smoking weed, did that lead into you, like, drinking or any other drugs?
Yeah, I was drinking before I was smoking, so drinking led to smoking. Before I left California, I had maybe had like 3 nights where I drank and like maybe felt drunk, maybe. And then parties were a lot more common in Conifer because when it's a small town, there's not as much to do, so everyone drinks and has parties. And again, I wasn't surrounded by a community that put God first. And then I was just trying to socialize and find my groove, find me, find my people, and I was just experimenting.
Okay, so I appreciate you being straightforward and open and real about that, because that's how we, through sharing our stories, can really connect with other people that are struggling or have gone through things that you've gone through. Is just being like, hey, this is me, we're going to be raw and real, and that's what this podcast is about. So I appreciate you sharing that, Emily, a lot. So you're off. You're in college now after high school. You're still smoking weed, right? Like into college. Gained 15 pounds. Now, kind of like you touched on a little bit ago, I think there's the body image is going on, and then you come across this tone up crew on TV or whatever, and then you start dabbling into fitness. Now, in regards to college, what did you go to college to study for? Did you kind of do that the whole length of time, or did you change your major? How did kind of all of that look like in regards to your degree once you got to college? Yeah,
I originally, since I was 8 years old, told myself that I would be an elementary school teacher, and so that was my path, and that's what I went to school for. I went to school for education and human development, and loved it. Like, loved the education that I got, and the education that I got, I went to CU Denver. Was, I think, I don't know, I've never been to any other school, but pretty unique, because the way that they taught teachers was not the information that you would be teaching, but about the science and the psychology behind growing up in kids, and how to respect kids, and how to really learn about the way they learn versus just what you're teaching them. Because we can learn that anytime. But if you can get in and get connected to the child and the person and the human, then you're going to be way better off.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So you go to college, you're focused on becoming an elementary teacher. And so and maybe you mentioned this, I just can't remember, maybe you didn't, but was it your like sophomore year, junior year that you kind of came across the tone up and started dabbling into fitness? What grade, or how old were you when that kind of came onto the scene?
I think that was the summer going into my sophomore year. So that was 2013.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So what did you said you kind of, you were following the tone up people and things like that. What did the fitness thing throughout college then, because we're going to get to the point where, we talk about if you finished out becoming an elementary teacher and getting that degree and all that stuff or not, but so how did the fitness begin to evolve in your life and transform your life and change your life? And then let's move into how or how not in regards to you finishing your degree. Let's just Unpack that if you don't mind.
So when I first started fitness, it was really just to lose weight.
Okay.
And it was like I was uncomfortable. I'd gained weight and didn't feel athletic anymore. Was very sluggish. Was eating like a stupid amount of food and like ramen at like 9:15 a.m. after I'd had a bagel with cream cheese at 7 a.m. Like
sounds like a college diet.
Yes, it was very much. I can tell you my schedule. 7 a.m. I would eat a bagel and cream cheese and have a latte, and I would go to one class and I would come back and have ramen, take a nap. And then my roommate would call me when she was coming back from class at noon, and then I would meet them downstairs at the cafeteria and have lunch. And then I would go back to class and come home, have dinner, and then I would make popcorn. Like that.
Now, where did the weed come in? Did you?
Oh, all day.
Bake and bake, or?
All day, all day. So that's definitely it's definitely why.
Class or not the smoke, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happens. That's what's gonna happen when you eat like that is you gain a lot of weight.
Yeah. Sure.
And the things that my friends, like when I hung out with my friends, we would smoke weed and then go to Taco Bell. Like it wasn't supporting a healthy lifestyle or mindset.
Sure. Right.
Which I'm glad that it happened that way, or else I wouldn't be where I am now. Mm-hmm. So I started fitness to lose weight.
Okay. And
I started working out to lose weight. So I originally kind of started dabbling within like some resistance training within 5 pounds, 8 pounds, but really was when I was in the gym, I was on the elliptical or the treadmill for an hour, just doing cardio.
Yep.
Because that's what I thought that you needed to do to lose weight. Because that's what all Google told me and what internet told me and whatever and Instagram. And so then I did that for a long time, and then I started restricting my calories a lot because I found that if I didn't eat as much, I would lose more weight.
Yep.
And then by my sophomore year, summer and sophomore year, I remember I was eating probably about 1,100 or 1,200 calories, while every day spending an hour on a cardio machine. Mm-hmm. And I remember feeling like people telling me oh, you're so skinny, and being like, yes, I'm so skinny, that's so awesome. But looking back at it now, people were like, "Oh, you're so skinny," in a more you need to eat something.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I did that for a long time, really restricted food, and worked out because I hated my body and because I wanted change and I wanted to be smaller. Right. And then it wasn't until I did that for about 2 years, probably my junior year or senior year in college, I was like, I am so tired of being tired and hungry. At that point, I had started to add more resistance training in because of some bodybuilding, like Nikki Blackadder. I don't know if you've heard her.
No, I haven't.
Some people that I found on YouTube and Instagram that looked like how I wanted to look, but were mainly lifting weights. So I was like, okay, well, I'll try that, see if that works. Still was eating really low calorie and not loving the way that I looked or how I felt mainly too. I remember I was probably practically keto because I thought I had to eat low carb. I was eating probably 35 grams of carbs a day, and then the rest really high protein and moderate fat. And just had no energy, and then would binge on. I remember once I used to babysit a lot when I was in school to make money, and I once ate an entire bag of those iced oatmeal cookies. You know what I'm talking about? Those grandma's cookies.
So, yeah.
And I remember calling my mom, crying. I was like, I can't stop. I had no, and I'd never felt anything like that before. But my body was so deprived, and it just needed nutrients that it was getting it in any way that it could. Yeah. And so shortly after, probably about 8 months after that moment, I was like, okay, these girls that I'm following on Instagram, on YouTube, they're eating the foods that I want to eat and looking the way that I want to look and training the way I'm kind of training. I have nowhere else to go. I might as well try it. And if I gain weight, fuck it, I'm going to gain weight.
Right. Yeah.
And so then started with carb cycling. So I was like, okay, I'm too afraid to add all the carbs in, but if I can kind of play around daily, and if you don't know what carb cycling is, it's a split of 3 low carb days and 1 high carb day, and then you usually have your high carb day on your higher training day. It's meant for fat loss. And that was still my main goal. I still felt like I had a lot of fat to lose, but really my body was just holding on to fat because it didn't have enough calories and nutrients. So I did that, and then I loved those high carbs days. I would dream about what I would eat.
Yep.
I remember I had like my first sandwich in like 3 years on one of those days, and it was the most amazing thing. And then shortly after that, it wasn't really until probably 2016, 2017.
Now is this like now going into like your senior year of college?
Yeah, that was probably my junior year of college. So I graduated, when did I graduate? 2016, I think. 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that was probably 2015 that I started the carb cycling. And then 2016, I started a little bit more like maintaining at a higher carb, being like 100 grams of carbs a day.
Right.
Maybe. And then I remember it was when I moved in with my now fiance, but boyfriend and his parents. He was like, he was around me eating before, but then, I was eating with him like every meal, and he was eating all this great stuff, and I always felt like restricted, and like I couldn't have the rice or I couldn't have the because it was too high in carb. And then I can specifically remember a certain day I was sitting downstairs in their basement, and I was like, okay, I needed to add calories in. I was eating about 1,600 calories. I was working out 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I was in student teaching at the time, so I was always on my feet. I was like, okay, I just need to eat more. Obviously, the people that I'm following, they're telling me stories about how much they're eating, and I want to achieve a physique like that, and want to stop thinking about food all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so then I upped my calories to 1,700, and I remember being so nervous. And I was like, oh my gosh. Then it worked, and then I kind of kept it that way for a long time. And then some days wouldn't track. I used my FitnessPal and track my food in that way. And some days wouldn't track. And then it was last 2 years ago. Now, last winter, not this winter, but last winter, I entered my first bulk because I was like, okay, I've seen so many people have success with this. Like, I'm gonna try this. So then I ended up eating probably 1,900 calories. Which is still, like, it's not that much,
right?
But from where I came from and from what my metabolism was, like, it was exactly where I needed to be. I went kind of crazy because I still at that point, like, I was eating more whole foods, whole stuff like that, and putting more carbs into my diet. But I went crazy because I'd never had that many carbs in my daily intake before, and so like I ended up like gaining 8 pounds or something like that, which I was comfortable with. And then this winter, I just finished my second bulk, which is I've had like so much success and it's so much easier. Now eating like 2,300 calories, like 300 grams of carbs a day, and I am so like thankful from where my fitness journey brought me to. Not that it's all about how many carbs you eat, but to not think about food and to not feel like I'm restricting myself in any way, and to be able to use my fuel and when I'm putting my body towards my performance, which is what's most important to me.
And I think, for me, following Brooke Entz and stuff, and you said she's kind of like maybe an online mentor or somebody that you really admire. I mean, she's somebody where it's just like, her physique, like, I mean, she gets a lot of, if you want to call it hate or whatever, negativity on.
She's very, very muscular.
She
works like really hard.
Yeah, she looks like a physique competitor, like in bodybuilding or women's physique or something. And she doesn't compete in that. She's a CrossFitter and things of that nature. But she's just one of those females that's out there that's very confident in her body, and she's also very open and has shared some of her struggles with different things. But that's something that I really have seen on social media that I think CrossFit has opened up the door for females, not only to start like lifting weights and not being afraid of doing the squats and the Olympic lifts and all that type of stuff, but really allowing CrossFit has opened up the door to allow females to be comfortable, in their own skin, in the sense of they don't have to be like super skinny, or they don't have to do all this cardio on the treadmill
Yeah.
and elliptical and stair step. It's like, hey, you can lift weights, you can eat the food within reason that you enjoy, and just be comfortable in who you are. And I see CrossFit, you know, has really opened up that door for female empowerment in that sense in regards to fitness. And then now it's like powerlifting and Olympic lifting.
Definitely.
You're seeing so much more participation from females, which I think is amazing. You know. So,
Yeah, what I love about like my fitness and this, I started at a CrossFit gym.
Okay.
Taking private clients there, but is that it's all about the performance, and that's what I preach to my clients. Like, yes, like the way you want to look, that's important, right? You want to feel good in your skin. You want to be able to be confident. Like that's a fun part of fitness too. But when we focus on the performance aspect, and that's fuel, that's sleep, that's nutrition, that's mindset, everything else comes to play, and then you're able to just like focus on one thing versus, oh my gosh, I want to look this way, I can't eat that, or I want to look this way, I have to do this exercise.
Right.
And then it's more open. Your fitness is more open, and it's more free, and it's more fun versus feeling chained to a certain body aesthetic.
Right. Now, I just want, so what was kind of like your mindset when you were, I think maybe you touched on a little bit, but just I want to delve a little bit deeper into like your mindset when you were going through kind of the, you know, restricting the calories. I think you said something about you were, you know, felt tired all the time and, you know, things of that nature. Because I know, because I personally, as a male, from a very young age, have struggled with body image, eating, restricting. I mean, just I've gone through the gauntlet. I mean, you know, just I've really struggled with that. And even to this day, I still weigh out my food. I write everything down. I'm very anal about that. I'm a lot freer in that sense in regards to my eating now. But I really struggle with that. And I know a lot of people, male and female, generally speaking, probably a lot more females than males, but there's a lot of people out there, Emily, as you know, that struggle with eating. So what was your mindset when you were in that? Was it all about just like, I've got to restrict my eating so I can get skinnier? And then like, I mean, did that just really cause a lot of like negativity to come into your mind and a lot of like issues from that end?
Yeah, every time I walked past a mirror, I would have to pull my shirt up and see if I had abs.
Right.
That's all I wanted. And I thought, you know, the less calories, the more likely to have that, which is honestly not true. And I ended up just hurting my metabolism and hurting my body, and I wanted to look a certain way, and I was very confused and misled on what I needed to do to get there. And I just wanted to be small. And I feel like that's where my fitness has changed, and that's where Empower Training, and that's what I preach to my clients. It's like, don't be small.
Right.
Take up space. You're important. Like, you deserve to take up space. Whether you have abs or not, whether you can see your muscles or not, you deserve to take up space. And that's where my mindset has shifted. But before that, it was like, I just wanted to be skinny. I just wanted like guys to think I was hot. It was just purely like surface level.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't, because maybe I didn't think I was enough. And so I felt like my body had to preach that I was enough.
Okay, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about whether or not you finished your education to be an elementary teacher, and let's just kind of start unpacking, unfolding, kind of you start, you know, the trial and error with the eating, and you're getting into the fitness, and how did that then impact you and what you were pursuing in regards to becoming an elementary teacher?
So my senior year, I had been in classrooms since my sophomore year, but my senior year I was full-time in the classroom. The second semester, the first semester I was still in classes, and then 3 days in school. And I was living at my fiance's parents at the time. They live up in Morrison, and I was teaching down in Commerce City. And every day before I would go to teach, I would cry. It was like 5 a.m. in the morning, I would cry because I didn't want to go. I love kids. It's not where I'm coming from. Like, I absolutely love kids, and I loved babysitting, I loved being around kids. But the overwhelm of being in front of 30 kids at one time in a dark room and having everything spinning and all at once was just too much for me.
Right.
Obviously, I'm a personal trainer. I work mainly one-on-one, and that's where I'm best. And I really did find that when some of my tasks in the classroom were to help with some of the kids who were behind and help them hone in on, maybe it was their multiplication or whatever it was, but working on that one-on-one, two-on-one, three-on-one was like where I thrived.
Cool.
Everything else was just overwhelming to me. And so I would wake up and I would cry. I would not want to go. I had some lesson to teach and I felt so like overwhelmed and not prepared. And then it was 1 month. It was in November. I was graduating in December. Before I was supposed to graduate, I was depressed. It was, now that I look back on it, I was depressed. I would fall asleep in the car all the time while my fiance was driving. I couldn't stay awake for very long. I was always crying. I was always upset. I didn't go to the gym. It was the first time in my life, like since I started, that I didn't go to the gym.
Right.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. I was like, wow, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not meant to do this. Originally, when I got into fitness, I always thought, okay, I'll do this as my plan B in the summer when I'm not teaching. I'll do like some boot camps in the park just to keep me busy. I love it. I found myself researching fitness all the time when I got into it more. So I was like, oh, I'll do that on the side. Then when that November came and I decided, and I wasn't ready to teach, and my mentors kind of told me that, like, we don't know if you're ready. We don't know if we can, like, pass you. And that was a really shocking moment for me because I'd never felt like I wasn't able to do something.
Right.
And it was a very humbling moment. And I knew I wasn't in it. And they knew that too. They knew that I wasn't involved and that I wasn't passionate about like the other, like when you're a teacher, there's a big passion, right? You'll do anything. And I would, I just wasn't. I wasn't in it. And that's okay. And I said, okay, well, I don't want to waste your time anymore. I don't want to waste my time anymore. I'm not fit to be an elementary school teacher. And that was really hard for me because since I was 8 years old, I said that was my path.
And this was a month before you're supposed to graduate, correct?
Yeah, I still did graduate, so I still have a degree.
Right.
But I didn't get my teaching license. And so, yeah, and then for the next month, it was crazy. I didn't do anything because all I did was I was student teaching, and so I said, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I was jobless. I didn't have anything to do anymore, and it was a really odd transition for me.
So then, okay, so you graduate, you have your degree. So did you I'm assuming got your degree in education,
yeah,
though, right?
Education and human development.
Yeah, okay. So so then what? I mean, you've got you're involved in the fitness.
Yeah.
That's like something it seems like it was burning inside of you. Like this is kind of like my jam. I really love this. Passionate about this.
Yeah.
The school teacher thing is like this. I'm not passionate about this. Graduate, don't have a job, and all that type of stuff. So then what is thing? Where do you go from there?
I hung out and watched a lot of TV for a while. In my fiance's parents' basement because we were living there at the time. And then I started applying for nanny jobs.
Okay.
I was working at a restaurant at the time, and I'd worked at restaurants all throughout college, waiting tables. And so I was still doing that and still making money kind of that way, but no real like career path. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get a nanny job because I don't want to work in the restaurant anymore. It wasn't really a healthy environment for me. And so I ended up applying to a bunch of different nanny jobs. And I got declined from a lot. And I was like, what the heck?
Right.
I just graduated with a degree in education and you're not going to hire me? And now that I look back on it, pure alignment, because the job that I did get was with, her name was Vesper, and she's the cutest, most amazing, sweetest child that I had ever met and ever worked with. And I ended up working with her for 2 years until I went full-time in my business.
Okay, cool.
So I ended up working with her, and then while working with her, I decided that I would get my personal training certification. So while nannying her, I was studying for my NASM exam and I did the whole online course, and so was studying that way and testing things out on her, and we were playing around with it, and and nannied for a while until I went full time in my business a year ago.
Okay, so during that time, like post college and stuff, like what were, and you're just hanging out in your fiance's parents' basement watching TV. Was that, did you go through some depression and just really have some thoughts that were maybe some dark negative thoughts? And then what was just kind of like, was it you getting this nanny job that kind of brought you out of that? What kind of just share that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, it was hard. I felt lame.
Right.
I felt like I didn't have value because what I was working for so long, I now realized wasn't for me. And I was trying to decipher that in a way that didn't, I felt like my calling was just gone. And I was like, okay, well, what is it now? I love working out, I love fitness, but at that time I was kind of removed from it because I wasn't working out when I was student teaching. And I remember just being so down because obviously, think about just sitting in a basement in a dark room watching TV, almost like I napped a lot. And I think this was shortly after, now that I look back on it, I didn't know it now, I was depressed.
Right.
And so it was still, I feel like I was still in that. And I think once, I had more of a purpose, taking care of someone else and making sure that their needs were met really helped me fulfill my own, and then helped me get connected with my needs and making sure my needs were met as well.
Right. Okay, so I want to just completely move past all of that stuff and just fully dive into who you are today, because just from our conversation right now and me listening, there seems to be this reoccurring theme with you throughout your life. There's, definitely some higher times and things of that nature, no pun intended. But just like of kind of that self-worth thing, and you kind of struggling with the body image and am I enough? And that to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to be a big theme in towards the end of high school, throughout college, and all that. So now I want to dive into, because on your Instagram it says you're kind of like your jam, who you are is empowering women to live happy, healthy, and fit through mindfulness and strength training. And then you consider yourself like a self-love enthusiast. So I just want you, Emily, to speak to specifically the women out there, because your main focus through your personal training here in Denver is training women. Is that correct? So just speak to the women out there. You get on your soapbox, whatever your heart and fire inside of your soul is towards women, and kind of the body image and the self-love and just what they need to do to be comfortable in who they are. I just want you to kind of take however long you want and preach. Yeah.
Well, like you said, yes, that was definitely a theme. And it was in college that I read the book You Are a Badass, and that kind of changed the way, by Jensen Sarah. If you haven't read it, I'm sure you've heard about it. It's all over the place.
I've never personally heard of it. But
you gotta read it.
What's the name of it?
You Are a Badass.
Okay, perfect.
She also has a one that came out called You Are a Badass at Making Money, and that one's really good too. If you have any money mindset kind of issues or things to improve on there. But I read that book, and that's where I felt like, wow, I don't have to look in the mirror and say that I suck. I can look in the mirror and say that I'm awesome. And it was very uncomfortable for me, as any mindset shift is. I think that as women, it's very confusing. We're told to be confident, we're told to love ourselves, but the minute we're like, stuck up and obsessed and conceited. And I found a big battle in that, and wanting to love myself, but didn't want to feel like I was stuck up or that I was not who I wanted to be. And as women, I think the best thing we can do for ourselves and other women and everyone in the world is love ourselves. Because if you don't love yourself, like really, you're with yourself all day, every day. What do you have if you don't love yourself? And so my journey within fitness of the self-hate, the wanting to be skinny, the finding my groove within what brings me joy was surrounded by self-love. And it really wasn't until, so when my fiance and I got serious and moved in together, it was very apparent that I didn't love myself. And it became an issue in our relationship. I would get really jealous. When he would tell me nice things like, oh, you're so beautiful, or like, oh, other things, or he would laugh because I was doing something cute, I felt like he was making fun of me, or like I was being like made fun of and attacked because I didn't truly know my value and my worth. And so understanding that and having him help me really understand that, like, you know, if we're gonna do this, like, I want you to love yourself as much as I love you. And so it was really that, and then the You Are a Badass, that really was like, okay, I have to do this, because this isn't affecting only me anymore. This is affecting the most important person in my life.
Right.
And so I started journaling, and I started writing I am statements, and it was really uncomfortable at first. I started reciting them like saying them to myself in the mirror. And then starting to like find a little bit of power behind that, and within like working on myself, just like that quote that you read at the beginning, working on my fitness and putting the time into myself helped me find my worth alongside the mindset shifts that I was having. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I still struggle with it to this day. Sometimes I don't feel great. Sometimes I don't feel worthy. Sometimes I don't feel fit. Sometimes I don't feel like I bring a lot to the table. It's not like you do all these things and then you don't have to do them anymore. It's a constant battle.
For sure.
It's not just like fitness. You can't just like get muscle and then stop working out. It just goes away, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where that morning routine really comes to play, and speaking to yourself the way that you would speak to your girlfriends or your mom or your friends or your significant other, because that's how you deserve to be treated. And understanding what you deserve, I feel like, is really important as well. And trying to find that and hold yourself to that standard within your relationship with yourself, and then every other relationship after that.
So for the people out there, for the listeners, specifically for the ladies, what are maybe one or two actionable steps that they can take if they have been struggling with maybe some of the things that you've struggled with in the past and still struggle with to this day in regards to the self-worth, the self-love, body image? What are a couple actionable steps that the listeners can take today, Emily, to kind of move past that and start transforming themselves and understanding, like, I am worthy, mm-hmm. I and just really loving themselves, so that they can kind of just be the woman that they were created to be.
Yeah. Affirmations all the freaking way. They're so powerful. I am statements. So for example, some of the ones that, I mean, it depends on the day, but some of the ones I write down almost every day is I'm strong. I am worthy. I am enough. I am important. I change lives every single day. Writing statements down that are meaningful to you. Everyone's are going to be different.
Yeah.
Some that work for me may not work for you. I remember when I first started doing this. Remember I talked about how all I wanted was abs?
Yeah.
I remember writing down, I love my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And that I remember writing it down every single day. And at first not believing it, because I didn't believe it. And then starting to believe it more. And then when I would look in the mirror, I wouldn't say, oh, like, you're fat. I would be like, oh, cool. And so really changing the way that your inner dialogue is really all it comes down to, is changing the way you speak to yourself. And that's going to change the way you speak to others and the way your conversations are. I remember when I was back in that wanting to be small and skinny and hating myself phase, having a conversation with people was so hard, because in my head, I was constantly thinking about how many calories I've eaten and like what I had left, and people would be talking and all in my head was like food, how I looked, how I was being perceived.
You weren't present.
No.
Right.
And so really writing down those affirmations and writing things that made me feel powerful, like I am a badass, and doing things that made me feel like a badass. Because when I came into that badass person, I went out of my comfort zone. I was doing things, and then that was further manifested by things that I was doing. So I came into my power in that way.
Cool. So you've got, looks like almost a full sleeve tattoo over there. Is that something? What is that tattoo specifically on your right arm there? What does that mean to you? And was that kind of part of you getting that tattoo? Was that kind of the process of you moving from your past and stepping into this new powerful woman?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I had always wanted tattoos. I think they look badass. Yeah. Especially on like a strong female. Hell yeah. And so.
Yep, that's amen.
Yeah. So that was me just like, well, if I'm a badass, like I want to do the things that I want to do, even if I know it may not look great when I'm 80 years old. Whatever, right? Life is life. I'm still going to have the same core, and I'm still going to be the same person with like the different outer shell. My outer shell shouldn't matter as much if I can really be authentically and fully and deeply myself on the inside. And so that was, like you said, me kind of like coming into myself.
Yeah.
And realizing, like, not caring what my parents would think, not caring what anyone else would think, like not caring if I could get a job somewhere because I have a full sleeve, but really doing it because I wanted it.
Right. That's cool. I have a little yellow post-it note outside of my classroom, my PE room, and it just simply says "Be You" with an exclamation mark. And that's something that, for me personally, I've had to come to the realization is like, because when you're younger, a lot of us are easily influenced by peers or easily influenced by athletes on TV, and we kind of just we're tossed to and fro. But, I'd say, I'm, quite a bit older than you. I'm 31, almost 32, but just within the last, probably two years, give or take, I've had to really realize, like for me personally, my faith is very important. So it's like, Quentin, God created you in a very specific way. He's given you gifts, talents, and abilities, and you need to step into that, and you need to be you. You need to be the man that God created you to be. And since I've kind of learned to step into that and am learning to step into that, there's such a confidence, because it's like, I don't have to try to be somebody else. I don't have to try to dress like somebody else. It's like, I like to wear basically the same clothes every day, white t-shirt, Nike shorts, tennis shoes, and like that's me. Yeah. Like I'm an athletic, workout kind of guy. Like I don't like to dress up. I don't like to wear jeans. So if I don't have to at my job, which I don't have to, which is awesome, I'm like, why? Yeah. It's like, just be Quentin, be Q, just do your thing. And I really believe in that. There's great confidence, there's great power, and you will then attract like-minded people, and you're going to live the life that you want to live. And for me, it's like living the life that God created me to live. Yeah. So that's just a little post-it note for myself and my students when they walk in my classroom, is like, be you. Because being a elementary PE teacher last year, and then now it's middle school. Middle school is like super weird time of life, at least it was for me, and that's, generally what you hear is like, we're all hormones and different things going on. It's like, and I had a conversation with my students like, hey, dude, don't worry about the other kids in your class if they're not running hard or whatever. You just take care of you. You take care of your business. That's all you have to worry about. And there's so much confidence and power in just like taking care of yourself, loving yourself first, and then as you love yourself and take care of yourself, then you can serve others and just have a greater impact. Do you agree with that? 100%.
I will say, when I fully stepped into my power and who I was, so many doors opened for me, because I didn't it wasn't about pleasing other people anymore. And it wasn't about what I thought I should be doing. I should be having this, even in my business. I should be coaching this, or I should be having people work out this way, or I should be doing this. Once I just let it all go, it was just like fireworks. And it's just the most amazing thing when you can truly be you. You attract, like you said, you attract people, and then, gosh, I gotta say, it is so stress-free.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there's stress in life, but you're not constantly worrying about how other people are viewing you, because
Right.
you know deep down in your core that you love yourself and you are doing your best.
Yeah, and that's awesome stuff, Emily. I really appreciate you touching on that, because it's just like, and for you listeners out there, I want you to grasp this, because I see even so many grown adults living a life that they weren't created to live, or living a life that it just, your life sucks. And I just want you to know, listeners, that there's so much more to life than just going through the motions, paying your bills, and doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like that's not living. You might be physically alive, but inside you're dead. So please, you have to take time. Just get alone. You have to, just dig deep into your heart and your soul and your spirit. You got to find out who you are. You got to find out why you're on this earth. What's the fire that burns inside of you? What are you passionate about? And you have to start taking those steps each day, one step in the right direction every day, in regards to that passion and that fire. And find out who you are. Be you, because you are somebody. And you don't have to try to be somebody else.
And who you are is amazing.
Absolutely. Who we are, as like who I am, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Who you are is beautiful. Like, there's all kinds of different spices in life, and it's like, as we constantly walk in who we are supposed to be, like it's there's no other word but beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And when you see somebody that's not trying to impress anybody, they know who they are, they're doing their thing, they're just living life. That's life. That's living. That's like radical. That's awesome stuff. So but cool. So let's we've been going for almost an hour here, so we'll start kind of moving towards the end. There's a few more things I want to touch on though first, Emily. Now, for you personally, your nutrition journey, you've done a lot of things, you've tried a lot of different things. It's been, a struggle for you. Where are you at right now nutritionally? Now, I know from doing a little bit of research and listening to some of your podcast episodes, it sounds like you're currently a vegan. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so if you don't mind just a little bit touching on how you became a vegan and what that looks like day to day for you.
Yeah, so kind of long story. I'm going to try and make it kind of short.
Oh, that's
but,
cool. No, whatever.
So a few years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, I originally went vegetarian because Boone, my boyfriend, now fiance, went vegetarian, and I was like, oh, I'll do it with him, right? I did it for a few months, and then we ended up taking a break. We broke up, and I went back to eating meat. I ate chicken and turkey, and it was fine. For me, I felt like I couldn't, for some reason in my head, I thought that I couldn't reach the fitness goals I wanted to if I didn't have animal protein in my diet. And so it's what held me back for so long. And then I had worked at in restaurants, and I was working at a breakfast place, so I was eating eggs all the time. And TMI, I was like bloated and gassy all the time. Yeah. And my Boone was like, maybe it's eggs. Like, you eat eggs every single morning. So I cut out eggs. I was still eating chicken and like turkey, sometimes fish. I never really liked fish. And then was drinking almond milk, eating cheese, butter, stuff like that. But took out eggs and felt better. And then never really went back to them. And then it was, when was it? It was on a road trip to Montana with Boone. We were driving, and it was hours of just cows and cows and cows and cows. And I was reading, I think it's called Veg News or something like that. It's a vegan magazine. I bought it at Natural Grocers to read on the way there. And at that moment, I was just like crying because I was so sad for these cows that are just born to die. And I felt so guilty and so self-centered and selfish that a meal was more important to me than their life. And so then at that point, I decided to go vegetarian. Boone had still been vegetarian this whole time. Right. And so he was a really good example. He never pushed it on me. He always just ate the way he ate. And I was inspired by him and his commitment to animals in that way. So then I was vegetarian for probably about a year, maybe a little less. And I watched What the Health
Yep, I've heard about it.
And was just like, what is going on? Did a bunch of research, and it was 3 days before we went to Cuba. We were going on a vacation to Cuba, that I decided to go vegan. And I was like, if I can do vegan in Cuba, in a meat-centered country, I can be vegan in America. And so I did it there, and ever since, like, I thought that my fitness would decline. I thought that I would lose muscle, but holy crap, it was the actual opposite for me. My fitness improved, my energy improved, the way my body shape changed really improved. I was able to see a lot more muscle. I obviously kind of had to find foods that worked for me a little bit differently. I was kind of eating that way in general because I was vegetarian, but taking away the butter and the dairy a little bit, and not being so lenient on like if things had milk in them and whatnot. Right. Ice cream was a big thing for me. I loved ice cream.
Ice cream's good. Throw in some peanut butter. And
oh yeah. But honestly, nowadays there's just so many alternatives, and it really is convenient. Like it's not that hard. And once you make, just like fitness, if you can make a commitment to do something, even when you don't want to do it, like when you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym and you don't want to go, you're tired, you still do it because you know it's going to make you better. It's just a choice that I have made, because my life is not more important than anyone else's.
Cool. Appreciate you sharing that. Now, so we touched on nutrition a little bit. What's kind of like for you personally, what's your fitness or your like physical training? What does that kind of look like, at this stage in your life?
It's a big mix. I like circuit training the best. Okay. I would say I started fitness within a bodybuilding kind of style. Yeah. I still train that way. Legs, upper, maybe like shoulders and glutes, things like that. Because that's what I like. Yeah. I like to kind of feel certain muscles being fatigued. Yeah. But I also like to train in a very athletic way. I like to do a lot of powerful movements, kettlebell swings. I like Olympic lifts. I like cleans. I like snatches. I like battle ropes. I just like to be challenged. And it's changed a lot because my fitness has improved, so I have to challenge myself in new ways. But I think for me, the most beneficial aspect of fitness is being able to do anything I want to do outside and to feel like I can conquer anything, even if I don't do it, just to know that I can. And so I train in that way. Very functional. Lots of like squats, cleans, deadlifts, strength training, primarily with that power aspect put in, jumping, rowing, running, sprinting.
Okay. So the fitness industry is full of all kinds of different characters and all kinds of different information, and especially here in Denver, you got these little boutique gyms popping up everywhere. You got CrossFit gyms, you got the global gyms. There's, just fitness everywhere. That's why the state's
awesome.
And the state's so amazing because of the fitness. But for you, because now you have your own business, and what's the name of your business?
Empower Training.
Empower Training. So how do you, Emily, in this flooded fitness community of Denver, of Colorado, and even just in the United States, how do you and how have you separated yourself and made yourself unique within health and fitness? Well,
like we had talked about before, finding that self-love and confidence is really what I preach and what I help my clients do. And so I have a really intimate relationship with my clients because I know when they aren't having a good day, and I know how to help them have a good day. And how I separate myself is really through that mindset training. My clients come in. Every client has their own journal. They come in, they sit, they journal, they do their grateful list, they do their affirmations, and then sometimes I have a certain prompt. One of my favorite prompts that I always go back to is write down, and this is something you can do after this if you're listening, is write down 5 things you love about yourself. Just 5 things. Physical, non-physical, how you make people feel, anything. And feeling connected to that and connected to yourself. So that's where I really differ from other people and other trainers and other gyms is I would kind of blend myself as almost like a life coach as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Not so deep into that, but I dabble in that. And making you feel like you can do anything, and through fitness and mindset. Some of my clients, it's actually funny, last week I had a client in here, and we're in the gym, that's why I say in here, and she was complaining about everything. She's a newer client, so I let them complain a little bit, like, oh, this hurts, or oh, that's bothering me, or oh, how many more, or how many rounds, da-da-da. And at that point, like, that's a really big teaching and learning point for me as a coach to say, okay, you're feeling this way, I'm empathetic, I understand, but you're better than that.
Right.
You deserve more, and I know what's inside of you that you haven't even seen yet. And so that's really where I come to play in altering people's lives and their fitness, is I know what's possible for someone, and I see that the minute that they walk in, and they don't even know that it's there yet, and I get to tap into that, and I get to help them achieve that, and I get to help them find that. And like I said, it's my favorite part.
Beautiful. So, social media.
Yeah.
It's here to stay. Again, kind of like with the whole fitness thing, you get on social media, there's all kinds of positive things, negative things, people that are got it together, people that don't have it together. There's just a lot going on with social media, and specifically like Instagram. I know, like within the health and fitness kind of niche or whatever, Instagram's huge. Instagram's, I think, just continuing to blow up and grow within our culture and stuff. So for you personally, Emily, do you kind of like put a limit on your social media, and then how has social media impacted you in getting kind of your personal business off the ground?
I'll start with that second question.
Okay.
Huge.
Right.
Huge. Like 80% of my clients come from Instagram.
Yeah.
And people that I went to high school with, I've been able to reconnect with Instagram and work with them, and in a way that I wouldn't have if it weren't there. And so super, super grateful for the amount of people I can connect with via the internet and Instagram. There are some times when it can seem really overwhelming, especially like when it's your business, and it can get clouded between like business and pleasure, because Instagram is fun.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's how we're sitting right now here doing the podcast. It's Instagram. So.
Yeah. And so, no, I don't put a limit on it, but I think naturally, like, I disconnect from it. Right. Sometimes I'm really good about like going on my stories and being active and connecting with people, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to touch it today. And one of the main things that I do within Instagram and social media is, sometimes I'm not great at it, is like trying to be present. And so like when I'm having a conversation with someone, trying not to like not being on my phone, or like especially with my fiance Boone, like, yeah, I might have to do some work stuff in the evening because, as an entrepreneur, you're always on. Some people are messaging me. I try and message back within 24 hours. And so, but trying to limit that and be present in conversations, and especially with my fiance, because we don't get to spend, we have a few hours at night. Some days, his schedule is pretty flexible too, but trying to really be present in the relationships that I do have, because we can easily get so caught up on like what's happening on the phone and like what other people are doing, and oh, like that's super cool, or oh, I feel like I should do this, or I feel like I should post this, but I think like naturally and like in a humble way, I feel like I'm good at being present in those moments. I know sometimes I can get caught up in it, but so I don't limit it, because I feel like naturally I happen to do that.
Right. But just to reiterate the fact that Instagram, social media has played a significant role for you being in the fitness industry and starting your business, right?
Yeah, specifically because I do probably 50% of my business online.
Okay.
So I have online programs, online meal plans, online coaching.
Cool.
And so that's an important space for me to be in. And my clients, I message them through an app, I check their workouts, I see what they're doing. And so it's important for me to be on my phone, but I try and limit that to a certain, after 7 p.m., 6 p.m., I try and I limit it.
Okay. Now, two more things I want to touch on, then we're going to finish things up. You've mentioned Boone, your fiance, a lot, and obviously he's an important person in your life. I just want you to kind of share with myself and the listeners, if you don't mind, Emily, just what it means for you personally as, the powerful woman that you are, to have that male in your life to share life with. What does that mean to you, and what is Boone in that relationship meant to you, for you, maybe like kind of in the past, like when you were going through some different things and having him kind of walk alongside of you, but then also now as you step into this powerful woman, this business person, what is Boone in that male relationship meant to you, and just kind of expand on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said before, he was the one who helped me see that I didn't truly love myself. And he is just like the best human being that I've ever met. And he just makes me a better person. Cool. He challenges me in so many different ways than I ever thought possible. Like a friend even was possible. So having him by my side throughout all of this, and through like me wanting to shrink myself, and then having him help me feel like I'm meant to be this woman, and I'm meant to like take up space, and I'm meant to be powerful, and having him be by my side through that and support me more than anything through that is amazing. So it's only amplified my life and amplified my business and helped keep me accountable. And we really, really challenge each other within fitness and mindset and life. And so to me, he's the perfect partner, because I'll never be complacent, because we're always trying to make each other better, just naturally.
Yeah.
And so if you are single or having a partner, I remember before we were always on and off in college, and I was always like, why don't boys like me, or like why? And it was always centered around wanting to be liked and to be loved. And then when I realized that I had to love myself first and do all that before that could really happen, and then our relationship really blossomed. And it became what it is now, and now we're getting married in 6 months, and I can't imagine having a better partner for someone who supports me for who I truly am and pulls out like my authenticity more than I ever realized. Just like I feel like what I do with my clients, he sees what's possible for me more than I even know, and brings that out.
Beautiful. Last question, what sets your soul on fire?
Oh, so much. Moving my body. Achieving physical feats that I really never thought I could do. That I look at and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And then, having the people in my community support me, my clients, my friends, my family support me in those, and realize my potential, and helping me do those things. But then also what sets my soul on fire is watching a client come in the first day, shoulders kind of down, maybe not as confident, like upset about maybe talking quietly, maybe talking about how they ate badly, or how they just want to feel good in their skin, and talking about themselves in a not loving way. And then 3-6 months in, they come into the gym, they're wearing a crop top, their shoulders are back, they're ready to pick up like 100 pounds, whatever it is for them that they want to do, they're ready to do it. Like seeing that in those moments where I can see it in a client's eyes and they just feel so badass, like that's what sets my soul on fire.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to thank you, Emily, so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang out with me. And I thank you for the transparency. I think we dug pretty deep on your story, and I know that some of the stuff that you shared from your story is going to impact people.
Cool.
So thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, of course.
And then finally, Emily, if somebody there's a lady out there, a listener out there that wants to reach out to you, find out more about you, maybe find out some of your nutrition and new training, things of that nature, where can somebody reach out to you so that they can find out more about you and what you offer?
Well, Instagram, like we talked about, at @empowertraining_. And then my website is m-poweredtraining.
Okay.
But you can find the website from my Instagram. Feel free to shoot me a DM. My email is on my Instagram too. Feel free to send me an email. What I love to do is help women find their light and find their love for themselves. So if you're feeling like you need help with that, I'd be happy to help you.
Cool. All right, listeners, I just want to thank you again for hanging out with Emily and myself for the 127 Fit podcast. If you guys would like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram at 127fitness, Facebook at Quentin Vars. If you want to just read some of my blogs, it's 127fitness.com. And then if you guys could do me a huge favor, please like, subscribe, share, and then especially within iTunes, if you're listening to this through the iTunes podcast app, please leave a 5-star review. And then if you think you would be an awesome guest, or if you have a person or two in mind that you think would be a great fit and a great guest to share their story on the 127 Fit podcast, please email me. And that email is 127fit@gmail.com. And per usual, I will leave you with Proverbs 24:10, which states, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. This time, until next time, I will catch you guys later.